together again to celebrate mothers. Just the word mother makes you think about cherished memories, about someone who took the time to exercise loving protection and care over you. We all have wonderful mothers in our lives, with memories we will cherish to the end of our days. Yes, Mother's Day is an occasion when you want to thank your mother and acknowledge her for the many sacrifices she made for you, for the lessons and principles she taught you. So, on a special day like Mother's Day, children have the chance to express their deep felt gratitude and love towards their mother. So today, I want to express my gratitude toward my mother and all the mothers here today and share with you principles my mother taught me. There are many principles I learned from my mother, but today I have chosen to share with you 3 of them. And the 3 are, the first one is faith in God, the second one is love, and that goes with love and sacrifice, and the third one is perseverance. You know, having a mother is one thing we all have in common. We all are a mother's child. And what day is better than Mother's Day to talk about what our mothers taught us and that we take with us throughout our lives. The first principle I want to share that my mother taught me is faith in God. In 2 Timothy 2:5, Paul is talking to Timothy, and he says, I have been reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you. You know, because mothers are the ones who spend most of the time in their child's formative years, they have the opportunity to teach and model for children what is really important in life. They have the unique ability to model God's love and grace and hand down their faith in God to their children. And we can see here in 2 Timothy 2:5 that this is what Timothy's grandmother and mother did for him. When we are young, we need role models in our lives to guide us and provide us with examples of faith. And what better person to do that than a mother? Young children believe and practice what they are taught by their role models. From my experience as an educator, with over 40 years of experience, and as a teacher, I have this saying, and I found it to be true for the most part. And that saying is that by the time our children reach school age, and that age is usually about 5 when they enter kindergarten, that their character is pretty much set. Teachers have the opportunity to spend quite a lot of time with children, 6.5 to 7 hours, 5 days a week, 9 to 10 months a year. And during that time, teachers come in contact with children who have respect for others and are committed to following their teachers' instructions and directions. And there are some children who have to be redirected over and over again, are unruly, and have to be sent out of the classroom so learning can take place. Why the vast difference? Because of the role models in their young lives. And not unless somewhere down the line there is positive intervention in their lives, their inappropriate interactions will probably continue. It is widely understood that your upbringing, whether kind or not, has a major influence on your attitudes and behavior, even once you've reached adulthood. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and even when he's grown, he will not depart from it. I can remember as a young child, my mother teaching me about God. Every Sunday, going to Sunday school and to church. I can remember also my mother reading with me the Sunday school Bible lessons and explaining them to me so I understood. And I remember my mother sitting with her children teaching us about Jesus, how he was the Son of God, and hearing her say many times that Jesus loves me. I remember going going to church choir practices with my mother and learning and singing songs to worship God such as The Old Rugged Cross, Amazing Grace, Blessed Be the Time, and Precious Lord. I can also remember my mother saying to her children that when times are rough, have faith in God. He will always provide your needs. And when things are not so tough, give thanks to God for what he has done. I remember her telling us to have faith. God will always see you through. Yes, my mother taught her children about God and modeled for us the faith she had in God that he would never let us down. Love and sacrifice is another principle my mother taught me. In Kings 3:6, two women went before Solomon with a dispute about a child. And in those verses, in Kings 3:26, we see that a mother is filled with loving kindness and compassion for her child and was willing to give him up to keep him safe. You know, love produces sacrifice. And as children, we need an example of love and sacrifice in our lives. And the mother in 1 Kings 3:26 suddenly displayed that. Her child's physical life is more important to her than his physically being with her. In our lives, especially in our formative years, there is probably no one that has greater influence on us than our mother. There is often a strong emotional bond made between mother and child. Maybe that is why our mothers have such a powerful influence over us. Mothers are absolutely committed to their children. Their love is a sacrificial love and will always look out for their children. My mother was absolutely committed to her children. Even when she was not fully good, she cooked for us, she cleaned for us, she washed our clothes. A thankless job because we expected her to do those things for us. She sat by our beds during the night when we were sick, sacrificing her health by catching whatever we had and missing her sleep. She kept her promises to us, even if it meant she had to sacrifice time in her busy day that she had already had planned for something else. She just did what she could not do during the day, late at night, yes, while her children were soundly sleeping. And she wanted nothing back in return. How many of us have memories of our mother expressing their love for us by their actions, by the things they did for us? How many of us remember the feeling of security, care, compassion, and loving sacrifices from our mother? Do we remember the times when mothers hugged and kissed us for just being us? Tucked us in bed at night, sang lullabies to us, played with us, disciplined us, and said, "This is hurting me more than it hurts you." Now I understand what that means. One thing for sure, I always have been confident that my mother loves her children. And by her example of love and sacrifice, I am able, as a mother, to demonstrate love and love and sacrifice to my child, and now to my grandchild also. Perseverance is another principle I learned from my mother. We all need an example of perseverance in my life, in our lives rather. Doesn't perseverance sound like a mother? Romans 5:3 says, "Rejoice in suffering because it produces perseverance." Suffering causes us to undergo pain, it causes us distress, and it causes us unpleasantness. The Greek word for suffering is basically translated as tribulation, or something that causes distress. Suffering can range from minor annoyances to major disasters. Suffering is hard. My mother learned suffering early in her life. As a child of about 9 or 10, she had to be separated from her mother and siblings. She told us she stayed with several of her mother's closest cousins until she reached the age of marriage. I know it caused my mother to suffer to be away from her siblings and mothers, but she persevered. Suffering, if we let it, will teach us how to be steady in life. You go through a tough time, and you get panicky. Then God gets you through it. And the next time you go through pain or distress, you're a bit more steady. You don't get quite as panicky. You persevere. Suffering teaches you to be strong. When we persevere, we develop inner strength. We accomplish inner strength by learning from our sufferings. When I was growing up, I watched my mother suffer in many areas, and I learned from that. My mother taught her children that hard times will come, but she advised us to have faith in God and trust Him that He will bring us through them. My mother will say to us, wait on the Lord, everything in due time. Yes, I was taught by my mother that suffering is a learning process, and that process produces perseverance. When we persevere, we learn that we're not as strong as we thought we were. We learn that we wanted to quit much sooner than we thought we would. We learn about God. We learn how gracious God is and how He handles trials and suffering in our lives in ways that we couldn't even dream of or anticipate. We see God work things out in our lives in ways that we never would have guessed. Yes, God brought us through to perseverance. 1 Peter 4:16 says, if you suffer as a Christian, do not be ashamed, but praise God that you bear that name. I learned this as I watched my mother praise and honor God in her sufferings. Yes, my mother taught her children the principles I talked about today, so we could function well and be productive citizens. She taught them to us so we would trust God and love God and let Him lead us to persevere in our sufferings. I believe we honor God by honoring our mothers. We treat God with reverence when we respect our parents, specifically today our mothers. And one way we honor mothers